So, welcome viewers to another episode of Just One Thing, where training gym owners get actionable insights to build their dream business. I'm with the legendary Tom Plummer again. And this is a multi-part series that we're doing on getting ready to sell your gym and things that you need to be mindful of, the formula itself, and things to take care of. So, Tom, we talked about the formula. We talked about what the owners should be thinking about in terms of debt, in terms of the earnings, in terms of salaries, owner's comp, all of that. Tell me this other piece, which is I've got the valuation. Now, most buyers, how do I take that money? Is it one big lump sum pay? Like, I'm assuming there's a lot I can do in terms of, or maybe I can't. You tell me about how do I get that money in, which is the most favored way that benefits me. Most people I've heard or I've seen when I exited my company was, hey, we need you to stay in the business for X months. It's almost like a retainer or put in an escrow kind of a thing. I don't know what happens in the training gym environment because the money's a lot less comparatively. It's a brick and mortar thing. So you tell me, how does it work? What should I be thinking of? What should I be mindful of? What should I not give into from a buyer's perspective? Mistakes, tricks, good and the bad.
I'd like to tell everybody that they sell for cash, but I would say 90% of the gyms owned by one person or a couple or something like that, the owner is going to end up carrying debt. So you have to decide what I can live with down and what the payments would be. Normally, I wouldn't sell it unless I could get 30 to 40% of the sale price down and then carry the note over 3 years. And or even 5, and I will charge 3-5% interest on that excuse me as well. There's a risk you don't get paid and then you have to take the gym back. We sold one of our businesses probably a decade ago and sold it to an experienced owner, and we sold it with about 1,400 members, and she completely destroyed it just within a couple years, or not even a couple years, probably 15 months, completely destroyed the business. We also sold the building to her, but we carried a note on that. And there was the primary note was through a bank. She defaulted, and we had to take the business back and actually fight to get our building back because she was in default at the bank as well. The bank were good. They knew us, good people. And they said, look, we're going to give you a few weeks to clean this up. But we still had to scrape up $100,000 to get the bank right. And we rolled off her whole note and had to step in. We sold with 1,400 members, got it back with 360 members. It was one of the just complete tank jobs. So even we do the right thing, sometimes you don't. But overall, we still got it back, built it up, and we didn't really lose, but we were still tied to it at that point. When you carry the note, even if they go bad, you're getting the asset back, but the asset's usually damaged. And so you have to be smart enough to know, okay, the business is worth 500,000. I get 150,000 down. I'm carrying a note for the balance, and they pay 2 years and tanked. Do you want to take the business back, or do you go, okay, I got 150 up front and I got 2 years of payments? So I'm good. At some point you may not get the full sale price. Now you can help that with personal guarantees, where if they have a house with equity, you can tie up some of those assets and kind of chase that a little stronger than you would if they have nothing. But a lot of times small training gyms just sell to another coach, and they don't have a lot of stuff. They're only $50,000 and they're really buying it with your cash flow. And that's a tough thing. I have a very successful small training gym client that's selling it to his manager. The gym was worth, I think we put a value on it, maybe 600,000. She came in 1 year as a trial. He knew her, she ran, but he gave her sweat equity for 5% for 1 year. At the end of the year, if everybody agreed, both of them, that she would come on as a physical owner with stock for 10%. But he goes, okay, you can own the gym. I want to take 150,000 out for the next 5 years. You do that, and each year stock will transfer back to you. So he's got a 5-year buyout from a trainer within his system, but he's getting what he wants because 5 years he's sitting on the beach, but he's still coming by a couple times a year to train the staff. He's still involved in the process. He's still kind of doing those things to ensure that she stays in business, and he's controlling the numbers until she's out. So there's always a way to sell it if you want to sell it. But most of them bluntly are sold with 30, 40% down. The owner carries a note. There is risk on that. And you do carry it over 3 to 5 years. And usually there's some interest involved. And if I can get a personal guarantee, I definitely will do that. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it just does not. So selling a gym there's not many of them that sell outright for that. A weird phenomenon in the training gym is, and this has come up, I would never believe I'd ever have to have this conversation, but in the last 3 years, because even the good guys made it through the virus pretty much unscathed, but I had some conversation with guys. One of them is a Western part of the country guru, and his gym, he wants out. He's, a nationally known, internationally known speaker. He's a tremendous person. He's been my personal client for a long time. Well, his gym is worth $3 million. Well, you're never going to get $3 million for a 7,000 foot gym. It's just not going to happen. His valuation, because it's him, is based so high that he can't sell it. And it's so you have to go and say, okay, what can I get for this? That's a fairly recent phenomenon. I have some guys up in the Northeast that are like that their gyms are so productive, so efficient, that they almost impossibly sell, because you're asking for a guy to put, to buy something for $2.5 million in, a small gym, when I can actually go build a building and open the whole structure for that. So that's unusual, but a training gym does have that possibility of being so successful that you almost drive the valuation too high. And then leads me to one point is if you can own the building, if you're going to be in the market for 10 years or longer, meaning that's home, your family's there, you love the area, and you're willing to hold for 10 years, buying the building, if you can, is always a good investment. Very anti-millennial that don't want debt, but it's a very positive thing for people that are trying to build wealth into the future. So if I can get, an owner, we're in a small Midwest town, or we're a suburb of Chicago or something, and we can buy a building, then that building, we get a 20-year note, pay it off in 10 years. Anything after that, then when you pay yourself rent, goes to your pocket, becomes passive income, or better yet, you sell the business or just close it and rent the building out, and it becomes your future income, because you might, pay yourself $15,000 a month. Well, a tenant might pay you $15,000 a month, but it's debt free, and you're just collecting $15,000 a month in rent. So building is a great escape plan for a lot of people, because it does create that path forward. An interesting side note is guys go, I can't buy a building, I just can't afford it. But if you look at it roughly in today's debt service, $5,500 is about the debt payment on $1 million. So so you're paying rent, you're paying $10,000 a month rent. You're in essence buying a $2 million building for somebody else. So right. At some point, if this is your place and you're paying some pretty decent rent, then you want to consider buying the building, because in essence, you're paying it off anyway. So many have got
point right there, Tom. Like you went through it so nonchalantly, but that's a beautiful point. $5,500 is worth $1 million building. So if you're paying 11 grand or so, you are paying for someone else's
$2 million building. Yeah.
That is amazing. That's an aha moment, even for me. I mean, it doesn't hit that way till you mention it that way.
There's always ways, but if the big picture we're talking about here is if I can own the asset, and it makes my escape a lot easier. It makes my valuation a lot easier. It gets me out of the business. Plus, it creates wealth for my family, because if I get hurt or something, I do it. My only side note on that is stay away from retail space. If you want to buy a gym, a building, buy it in space that is in part of town where it's either Class A office space, where somebody might put a State Farm office in it, for example, or it's medical space. but I don't want to be a strip plaza trying to compete in the retail world today, because that's such a garbage segment of the market now. How many malls are just empty?
So, you talked about this gym owner. You have to carry that 5-year note. So from a big picture perspective, if I have to think about getting ready to sell 5 years out, then I still need to be mentally prepared that I just can't walk away from the gym at the end of that 5 year. I should be mentally prepared to say, I need to spend another 3 to 5 years because I'll be carrying that note. I need to train the new owner because, like you said, not most gyms are an outright sale or outright cash purchase, correct?
Right. The new owners, though, I'd like to think theoretically that's good. I buy the gym from you. I want you to stay around 90 days. Most guys I'm tired of you in 30 days. Come and show me how the computer works, introduce me to your clients, and then get out of my way. This is my gym. I'm excited about it. So that doesn't happen too often where they do that. There used to be, if there's any gym owners out there that have been in business 10 years or longer, they need to check and see what their corporate structure is. If you're an old C Corp, those are absolutely the kiss of death. You want to get out of that. Tell your accountant, no, never. No, if your accountant does that, the accountant's got to be 90 years old. That is absolutely the worst vehicle to sell a gym in, because you sell it and then you get taxed on the sale twice.
Yep.
And it's hard. But it takes 5 years to 10 years to work through a C Corp transfer. So if most of these guys have never heard of that, and the younger owners have never faced that. But some of these owners have been in the same location 20 years. Many of them might be old C Corps, and you definitely have to get rid of that. That is definitely a bad thing to be. And you don't need to know much about it. Just ask your accountant, am I a C Corp? And if you are, say no. And if the accountant says, no, I want you to keep it, get a new account, because you're getting bad advice. That's absolutely the worst vehicle to operate or sell a gym in.
Right. And then the go-to positioning should be an S Corp, right? At the end of the day, that's what you want to be.
If you're a single owner, an S or a LLC, for married couples, and this is always, again, raises eyebrows, is married couples often don't stay married. So I recommend if you and your wife are working in the gym together, or even if you're not, one spouse is a gym owner, one spouse has another job, I still recommend a C Corp where you're partners in this corporation.
And you mean an S Corp, not a C Corp?
No, I'm sorry, LLC.
LLC.
Yeah, you
okay.
form an LLC. Sorry, I misspoke. Good one. Yes. So I was still thinking C Corp when I said that. But so a husband and wife, I recommend them to do an LLC. Even though he might be a school teacher, the gym is her life. I still recommend the LLC, because if you go back to the first episode we've done in this series, the formulation, the value, once I build that formula into my partnership agreement, which we probably need to talk about in another segment, but at some point, and if I get divorced, we've already put a value on the gym. So your local accountant will look at your situation and determine if you should be an S or should be an LLC. Just never be the old C Corp, of course. I don't know if people even set those up anymore, but that just make sure that you have one set up for you.
Yeah, I'm a C Corp, just so you know. But yeah,
and you got to and change that tomorrow, or I'm going to burn your house down.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you once again, Tom. It's a pleasure to have you, and I so appreciate the time, the energy, the inputs, the insights, and the wealth of knowledge that you bring to these sessions. So thank you.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.